make a motion that we exit executive session.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Other than that, how's everything else going?
That is all of my conflict public defense, unless anyone else has another item.
Have you guys had any other concerns right now, or is everything?
No, I think we're just trying to figure out who we can juggle some of these CP cases with.
Okay.
So we're continuing on that. I don't think that there's anything particularly killing us or anything that came up.
No, I think the filling the other vacancy, which we've kind of targeted to cover juvenile and child protection, that's the long-term solution, and we'll just keep slapping Band-Aids on it until we get that spot filled.
Okay. Well, hopefully we get that filled in the next couple weeks, and that's done, and we get some other contracts, and hopefully we're, yeah. Okay, good.
I have 3 more items for the board.
Your time limit's going, girl.
Really, I only need to get through this one. So my next is a recommendation to award the cell for Phase 2 landfill cell expansion later. As you know, it went out for ITB on May 24th. We did receive 1 bid on this solicitation, and that bid has been reviewed for compliance and completeness, and the Public Works Director is confident that this company would be able to do the work that is needed. As the board is aware, there is a deadline. They need that liner in the ground before the snow comes in order to be able to utilize that space through the winter. So the recommendation is to award that contract to Gale Lynn Construction. If the board approves, I do have 2 recommendation letters to sign.
And how did this come in on budget?
So it is slightly under what the engineer anticipated it being. They had a little difference. Gale Lynn had less on mobilization costs than what we anticipated them having the need for, but then they also had a lot more expense on the liner than we anticipated, so there was a little give and take there. I can't remember exactly. I believe our engineer estimated somewhere in the realm of 5.3 million dollars. Big difference there, sorry. And then the bid came in at $5.1 million. So they were just under where we thought they'd be. A lot of the things were right in line with that engineer's estimate. But I think Kyle's biggest concern at this point is that they can mobilize now and get moving on. As soon as it's awarded, right, they'll order the liner. That'll take quite some time to get here, and there's some testings and things that involve that have to be done with our engineer prior to them installing that and moving forward. So we're able to utilize that new area come winter time.
Okay.
Other questions?
No, I talked with Kyle about it a little bit yesterday, so I'm good.
I'm good.
Motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the bid as presented to, what's the name on that again?
Gale.
Sorry, I'm writing the number down so I
Okay.
have it.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Nothing like spending $5 million in a day.
Before lunch.
There is only the 1 line for the chairman's name on both.
Yep.
And this is going to span over multiple years, correct?
So, yeah,
Since there's only 2.7 budgeted this year?
I'm having them work out what they think they can possibly be in this year's left and next year's, so.
It's gonna run
we have
across.
this project done by November, December kind of time frame, so they're gonna start as quickly as possible to be able to get it done, so there's gonna be some monies needed for this year.
That meeting.
Because we've already spent most of that.
So we don't have enough funds available this year to cover this? Okay.
All right. We're going to hold you for a minute. Terrell's going to have to leave. He's got another meeting here in a few minutes. So let's go ahead and have Carrie.
Thank you, Commissioner Mosier. Kerry Hawkshaw, Court Administrator for the record. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to the Commission about some proposed remodels and room assignments within the Bannock County Courthouse and the Bannock county annex. So I submitted a memo along with the agenda request as part of, I think, a long-going conversation we've been having about how to maximize space, consolidate court function, consolidate county function, and also consider available space over the annex. So what you see before you is a multi-part proposal. The kickoff is requesting the commission's support to remodel room 218 and 220 right down the hall from us, my offices, and what we've been calling the training space or training room. We'd like to remodel that into a new courtroom, which it included jury box. We would build it out to have a cut-through door into my office right now, which would be chambers, and where Brandy's currently sitting, that would be the judicial assistant office. One of the reasons why we're looking at this is not only do we need new space, but it also provides some options that you'll see further in the discussion. That brings us up to the courtroom on the third floor, Judge Jarman's courtroom. I think several of you have had an opportunity to tour it, both to speak to Judge Jarman and also with Dan, and have seen the limitations both with the bench, how it's currently constructed for let's just say different sized person, and then also recognizing the limits, the ADA limits of some of these 30-plus year courtrooms that we've had. We also have a couple other factors that are coming online. Is the Idaho legislature approved deputy trial court administrator for my office, and I'm looking for space to house that deputy trial court administrator. And then we also wanted to potentially talk about doing a space exchange. Once we build out the 2 courtrooms, if the commission's amenable to the proposal, we'd like to talk about going back in time to a proposal that was on the table earlier this year about the county using courtroom 119 and the associated offices next to it, whether that was for HR, for a additional training room, conference space for county use. And what we do is once we have both of those 2 courtrooms built out, we'd do the shift, and the initial thinking is that arraignments would go into the new courtroom. Judge Jarman, once we build out 218, she'd come downstairs. We switch up, build out, do the remodel on the 3rd floor. Once that's done, either then she returns to her chambers at her courtroom that she's in right now. We move arraignments into 218, and we turn over to the county 119, 118. Those spaces available to use however you'd like to use them. We'd also like to do a switch since I'd be giving up the current space that I have. I'd move up to the 3rd floor to the problem-solving court offices and staff attorney offices. We leave the staff attorneys up there, but myself and Brandy and the deputy trial court administrator would take the office spaces currently occupied by Katie, Misty, and Amy, and we'd like to propose to the commission that they move over to the annex and I think there's a couple different configurations in the offices formerly occupied by the public defender behind what's right now misdemeanor probation and pretrial. In terms of money, we have a little over $40,000 in the court facilities trust right now. We also have in this FY approval from the Idaho Supreme Court for a remodel for the audio, wiring, and technology that we pulled through there. And then we also, another lever that I'd ask the commission to consider supporting is that the Comfort trial is set for January of next year. So in next county FY, there is a significant amount of reserve that's in this district court fund budget for complex trials or capital cases. I'd like to redirect those funds that are in operations to support this capital project for building out 218. Primarily to purchase furniture and other expenses. But it's currently budgeted within operations of the district court fund. We're looking at a kind of an all-in budget on the different courtrooms, and this is kind of based on some numbers that Dan put together for us. Looking at about $90,000 for 218, which is using the bulk of that court facilities trust, which would build up between now and then. So I'm looking at about $50,000 for court facilities trust. The Supreme Court would cover the audio and wiring, and then use some dollars that are currently right now in district court fund, right now budgeted for the Comfort trial, but we're not going to have the Comfort trial this year. I'm asking in next FY for a $60,000 capital project within district court fund. We'd use that $60,000 in capital next FY to go ahead and build out Judge Jarman's courtroom up on the 3rd floor. I think Dan's initial estimate is about $53,000 to complete that project. and then there wouldn't be additional expense on some of the office moves. My proposal doesn't include any costs that the county might incur for remodeling 119, 118 for your purposes. But if we're able to pull this off, we could look in the next budget year if there was, depending on how much build out that needed. I wasn't sure of the number that was getting kicked around last year when we were first talking about 119, the arraignment courtroom and the county using it. So that's the nuts and bolts of the proposal. Love to answer any questions, have further discussion about doing it. Of course, all this depends upon getting it on Mr. Kendall's project list. He's become quite a hot commodity, as you all know.
And I'm the one that says no for him.
I know, and that's why I'm talking to you instead of talking to him. But I think the money is here. I think we have a path forward to cover it, both in this FY and then contingent upon next FY if the county's able to budget for a $60,000 capital expense into the district court fund next year, plus any additional court facility trust that builds up. And it builds up about $4,000 every month. And so what I'm talking about right now is the $40,000 in cash balance as of when I checked with the auditing before I left on vacation. So by the time we actually start swinging hammers, if it's a couple months down the line, we'll have another about $8,000.
I have a quick question on the money you said you have in district court.
Yes.
Where's that at?
I believe it's under miscellaneous trial expense.
There's 30,000 in there, but some of that's been dedicated for other items.
That 30,000 was primarily for, I believe, expecting Comfort to go.
It's for all trials combined.
Yeah, and so
But 10,000's already been dedicated, and I don't know if any other has been dedicated for that. So in the future, if you could loop me in on your thinking prior to the meeting, that would help me give some time to prepare to make sure the money.
And even if we
is
look
gonna
at
be
that,
there.
if we look at the overall bottom line budget, district court fund, we're underspent based upon percentage of year. So what I'm looking to shift in terms of cost attributed to district court fund to move into operations, whether it comes out of the 30,000 that's dedicated to the trials, or looking at underspend in other operational categories within the district court B budget. Really, the numbers we're looking at is between 14 and 21,000 that would come out of district court fund to close the gap.
So
And that's to purchase the tables and chairs, so some basic items.
This is something in this courthouse we've been trying to push for years to try and functionally change this courthouse so it will continue to function for another 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, this building was built in 1953. We finally got the bathrooms updated. There's some other things here, and this is what we talk about. So in the courtroom flip, which we've been trying to accommodate to get a training room, to get stuff, to continue to allow this building to be doing it, this is kind of where I was going with into a generational type thing. If there's some ARPA funds that need to be, Comfort's still going to go, correct?
It's January, it's set for trial January of next year. Who knows if it's going to actually go, but.
So instead of having to pull tax dollars and roll back and forth, however we do that, if we have money there, I've just let it carry forward into the budget. What I'm saying is this is a project that this is where we need to look at to move those two courtrooms. That one courtroom, it was built, when this add-on section was built, what, in 1973?
I
think it's when it was, 1973 is when this add-on was built. That courtroom hasn't.
Parts and Germans.
Yeah. As I'm aware, I don't think the carpet's ever been replaced. And so you've had.
Well, not since I've been here.
You've had.
Dan saying no in the back.
So you've had, I mean, I think we've gotten our use out of it, but what I'm getting at is these are the things that if you go through and you're talking about the total build out or whatever, this is kind of you're building a structure to maintain the structure to keep us here. It fixes some of the sizing and spacing and what we need to have happen. It gives us a training room. It gives us some other options that way. As this project goes forward, this is something that I'm definitely in favor of because it helps get courts into right functional space areas. I would still love to get A. Thompson off the bottom somehow and get him up. That's the next phase, but we got to get this phase done first. But this is something that we need to look at the funding mechanism, especially have that conversation of whether it's however we pull the funds and with the court funds and all that stuff in, but then to the makeup and the gap, that 50 grand or whatever that is. I think that if we have to have that come, that would be I think a worthy discussion in that ARPA side, especially if we're going to keep these courts functioning for another 30 years. So.
And I agree with you there. Another thing that we've talked about, and if we're going to start doing this, we've talked about judges sharing courtrooms.
Yeah.
And
Master calendar.
master calendaring and how. So that's got to fit into this picture if we're going to start remodeling courtrooms and stuff, in my opinion.
Well, and I think that needs to be a discussion for down the road of how we do this, because maybe there might be some stuff in the design work that we take that into account while we're doing this, because the last thing we want to do is tear up something and do it, and then just to have another, you know,
Pave a road to tear it up and repave it.
pave a road, tear it up, put the water line in, and repave it. Don't do that. But that's, I mean, seriously, I think there might need to be a little bit of that in the next couple of years. If we get another district judge, if we get another magistrate judge, you know, and it might be next year, it might be in 10 years, where and how do we do that? So,
And I haven't had time to sit down with Dan and walk through all this and
yeah.
yes or no on him.
I-
So honestly, I think that we need to go look at this.
Yes.
We need to do a walkthrough. There's still a lot of conversation about what's gonna happen across the street.
Yeah.
We're talking about the new
Juvenile building.
juvenile building right there at the side of that same building. So there's a lot of moving parts right now. I would really like to walk with you, with Dan. We could walk through all this and have the conversation. I'm a visual person, you know. We keep talking about floors and different things, so that's what I would like to do.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
before
no,
moving forward on
and,
this.
yeah, I think we just need to, but we need to stay on it, and we need to get on it, and get moving.
Yeah, I think there is some opportunity, how we're looking at either ARPA funds or monies from the Supreme Court. I think the only thing that's pressing in terms of time is how much county money out of this year's district court fund. And if ARPA money is on the table as a separate conversation, then that might take, allow us a little more space in terms of where we put it on Mr. Kendall's schedule if we're able to go forward with it. We would like to kind of keep this on the front burner.
Yes.
Because I think while we have some vision, and I think if we have folks who I think are simpatico with the idea, let's get it done and then be able to check one thing off of our long-term list.
And
Well-
the Supreme Court, does that go away after this fiscal year?
So we're at the end of the FY. I've asked, and they've Supreme Court's given me a placeholder for remodeling or doing the audio and wiring for 2 courtrooms in Bannock County for next FY. I haven't seen, nor I think has the court approved their final budget. So that also might be one of the things that we'll look at. Right now in our judicial district, we've got the Franklin County remodel addition that's going on right now, and we have a placeholder for 2 over there. And then we have 2 here in Bannock if we're able to pull this off. If we did, what we can, there are things that we can ask for and some consideration that the state goes through an end of year as well. If the timing is off on the wiring and audio, because it can be anywhere between $25,000 and $37,000 that'll be paid by the state to
Well, I
pull
think
wires and
if
stuff.
what you said, we push this to the front, this goes onto the front burner. We have other projects that are going on, and some of the things that we can help do is some of the bids that we receive on the other projects and some of the other stuff. If you have people willing to come in, is if you don't, they're not to joint projects, but what they are is if people know there's another project or stuff in there, it helps us get other bids. It helps us get people involved. And like I said, if we can make it work and get it done, this is something that we've been pushing for
As long as we.
you and me have been having this conversation for 6 years. And if we can make it happen to where we can start fixing some of these issues and get it done, this is definitely something we need to push. And if the Supreme Court is willing to help pay for all of that stuff for those 2 courtrooms, in the past, we haven't had them as willing because there just hasn't been the funds available to do that. And if they're willing to do that and help augment, then yeah, we need to push. And if you guys can go for a walk, and all of us go for a walk the next couple days, week or so, whatever. Next week's our busy week. That's our,
But
Yeah,
I
we've
think
got a
that,
lot going on next week too.
and then we come back again on a Thursday and see where we're at, would be my
after
recommendation.
the holiday.
Yeah, right after, and get back and start writing some paper up.
I'll talk to Dan and we'll get with Christy Davenport and see if there's just some times that we can schedule, at least 2 of you, hopefully all 3 of you, and connect with Judge Nass and I, and actually have that visualization. And
Yeah.
Dan's done some drawings of what the courtrooms would look like under the remodel. We'd have to think through what, if anything, we could do to build it out for potentially master calendaring. I mean, the arraignment courtroom, it always is master calendar.
Yes.
Because we run judges through there, and it's not a courtroom that's just one judge's courtroom. But we'd have to think about what, if anything, we can do up on the 3rd floor to build it, to future-proof it, right?
Yeah, that's all I'm asking is, let's look at the whole picture.
Appreciate the discussion.
All right, thank you.
I'm gonna I have a legislative meeting. I'm gonna go talk about public defenders.
Good. Take care of that. Shanda.
Okay, so then I am to number 5, to review updates on the procurement policy. And due to time, I would like to be super brief if the board is okay today and have additional conversations on another time. There are 3 things that I would like to just point out that as you look and review, that you kind of notice that some of the bigger changes that I'm suggesting making in fiscal year 23. The first one I want to bring your attention to is on page 3. So as the board knows, I brought that team together, the procurement team together from my biggest departments to have a discussion on how we can make our purchasing process better, right? More consistent for both the vendor and the internal departments as well for the board, so that you guys are very clear every time the process that a purchase would go through before it is complete. So the first step that we wanted to include is that we were finding the bulk of Bannock County purchases are going to be less than Idaho code limits currently. So we wanted to have some structure. Right now our departments were doing the best that they know how. And for some of our departments that do this day in and day out, they have fantastic processes. But some of our departments that don't just didn't know how to move forward. So we wanted to have some of that structure built in for them. And so part of that proposal is going to be then proposing to have an informal quote process as part of our procurement. And that right now would be set for anything more than $30,000 up to the Idaho code limit of once that kicks in at $50,000, then Idaho code kicks in and tells us how to do things. So this would give guidance to departments. We pattern it very similar to the semi-formal bid that Idaho code sets out. So it would be a very similar process. We're not reinventing the wheel or anything too crazy there. But the department would go and get 3 quotes. And those quotes would be as simple as if we are purchasing $30,000 of computers and we type in what does the computer cost at Walmart, right? So they can get it online, they can contact a rep, they can get with procurement. I can go and look for, co-ops or things like that to have a price and a quote for them. Just however best fits their needs that they need. But at least check 3 spots just to know what is out there. They still control all of it, the product that they need, the timeliness of delivery, things like that, right, is all controlled by the department. But just vetting out to see that we're not just consistently using these people because we have for the last 30 years. So we're going to do just a little bit of change up and ask that they have 3 quotes attached to those invoices as they process them. Just looking for the best buy for the county. So that is a big change that we're suggesting moving forward. And then as you start on page 3, and then it goes into the process and some of the exceptions that I propose in the following pages. On page number 6 is the next kind of big change that I am requesting for the board. And that goes along with page 16 as well. So we have different processes for goods and services, and then public works is the difference between the pages on 6 and 16. The change that I propose making is that right now semi-formal bids, that first trigger in Idaho code, normally comes before the board. And we were hearing from departments and vendors that sometimes that step can slow up the process between what is available and what's not available, what can be delivered, right, what we missed out on. So trying to have a process that's consistent and open and can be relied upon, as well as balancing that need for contracts, things to be reviewed and proposed to the board. I would like to propose that those bids be received by procurement and be able to be reviewed by the departments. And then we combine the steps when I come and recommend before the board, make a recommendation before the board, that we combine the steps that we review the departments, or excuse me, the bids that we received from who and how much, as well as award at the same time. So they get received by procurement, they get sent out to the department that was asking for them, they look and review for compliance, lowest cost, right, score the bid, all of that happens. And then as we come before the board, we say, great, we received 3 bids from ABC 1, 2, 3 and XYZ. Lowest bid is XYZ. You know, the department's already done the review. They would like to recommend that the board move forward with XYZ. And that works the same. It's just a different trigger for the Public Works that's on page 16 as well. So those are some of the bigger things that I would like to just draw the board's attention to. The other item that will change, I propose that I next discuss with the board after July. We get done and through with BOE, as well as on July 1st, any legislative changes that were approved in the process, what could that affect here? So then I want to make those adjustments as well before then we have a conversation. But if there were any questions or anything like that the board had that I can review and prep for that, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay. Questions, concerns?
No, I like where we're going, and what I hear from the departments is positive, so.
Excellent. Okay. We will keep heading there, and I'll get back on to discuss with the board further after July 4th. The last is just a procurement update, wanting to touch base on the safety and assessment building. That bid has been published, and we have 5 known RFQ holders, so that is looking promising, and those bids are due in a couple Fridays on July 1st. The South 4 Phase 2 expansion was taken under advisement and has just been awarded, which is great. The Wellness Center gravity sewer system is our next biggest one, and that one is also due in a couple Fridays on July the 1st. Follow up on the HVAC booking and D-pod renovations that are going on out at the jail. Like with a lot of things, we ordered the product months ago. It is yet to be delivered. They do anticipate late July that being delivered and that project starting, which will align really nicely with the medical bay renovation. They have been just working diligently to make all of those pieces of that puzzle flow together nicely. There was a slight delay in the flooring product, but that has now been rectified, and they anticipate that being completed about the mid to end of July, which will work perfect for Levi as he buttons up that one to move on to his next project, as he's said several this year. But if the board has any questions.
Good.
It's just fun watching stuff move through.
Right? The sheriff's office is doing a phenomenal job in keeping track of those projects and getting them moved through a difficult environment. So, great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Daniel.
Good morning, how are you?
Good.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Good.
So as you're aware, the maintenance department is under the process of reorganizing. Last week we had the assistant put in his notice that he was transferring to the Downey Fairgrounds. And I asked HR not to post that job opening until we spoke. And I was just asking, I'm here to ask if there was any way that we could move some budget money around to hire an assistant, maybe a higher skill set that fits better into the chart that I'm proposing for the future. So that's why I'm here today.
Okay. We need to look, like I say, I agree with this, especially as we have one of the other employees talking about retiring
Yeah.
early next year, that we need to hire the right person at this time to start flowing into that position a little better, give you some support. What bracket, what wages are we looking at?
Go ahead.
I'm hoping for an 11 or 12 to get, I want a person that's a journeyman level technician, whether it be an HVAC person or a plumber. And I don't think we're gonna get one for less than that. I'm hoping for a 12.
So most of the people that have come and talked to you about money, Kendall has actually come and talked to me prior to this meeting.
Good.
And I'm sorry, I'm a little frustrated with some of the things that have happened this morning. We did some projections for Daniel, and if we start on pay period 7/28, we did do a projection at grade 12, and there is sufficient funding that we could accommodate that.
That's what I would like to do. I mean, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, and if I could, as part of the process, we still need to get the position description written and evaluated using the criteria, you know, that I'm trying to establish, so. But that's good to know there's budget for something at that level, and we can, but there's still, I would still like us to go through that step too, you know.
No, it needs to have the job description, needs to have,
Yeah.
just like we're asking everybody else. That's all. Thank you. Thank you for following the processes. I mean, that makes it a lot simpler.
Doesn't make it a lot easier.
It makes it a little easier for me to just say, yeah, let's go ahead and do this, instead of say, no, I need to walk around with Dan.
Yeah, I have no heartburn with this. You've identified funds and are comfortable with that, so.
And I don't think we even really need to move monies within A lines.
No.
Um,
Everybody's in budget.
We don't.
Oh,
It'll be fine.
Okay. All right, so we need a motion. for that?
just to refresh real quick. We're looking at, tell him the position you're looking at.
So we had a assistant transfer to Downey.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to kind of follow the new proposed chart for next year and hire an assistant at a higher skill set, which would be a higher pay grade.
Pay grade 12 is what he's talking about.
We have the money in the A budget to cover it.
You already talked to Christie.
Okay.
Identified
Yeah,
funds.
no, if you're good that way.
They'll get a job description
No, that's good.
and everything.
Yeah, I'd do it that way then.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the creation, is that the correct word, of the facilities assistant position at the pay grade 12 as discussed.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, they didn't have a, they sent it out, they didn't have, I heard it was in budgets.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, okay.
Was Todd Mager not coming again?
I haven't heard from him.
I thought he was gonna be here, I talked to him yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'll go reach out to him.
Kyle?
Somebody else.
No, you are.
You're here, so you're up.
Hey, mark it on your calendar. I'm here to give you something and not ask for anything. So,
Oh,
Again, who are you? What's your?
We'll see how.
see how long this lasts.
that's just for today, so small time. No, we got a grant, LRIP grant, for updating our transportation plan. It was back approved in 19, it went through 20. We've had engineers look at all of our roads. We went out to the public with, it was kind of through COVID also, so we had to use social media ways, different things like that, to get a better idea of where Bannock County is with their road systems. This is just informational. And it does help when we go for grants, because then we can show that there's been a study already and this bridge is this, or this road needs that kind of thing. And so it does, some grants won't even, you can't even apply if you don't have a transportation plan. So it was a needed update. I think our last one was in 12. So, and this can be kind of a living document too. If you look kind of, you got a PCI rating, which is a pavement condition rating. Under 65 is kind of what needs some attention. There's not a lot of miles that we have of that, and what we did last year, luckily, even before we knew what this was exactly or what their findings were, we were kind of on the same page. And we've already accomplished quite a bit of them roads last year and then this year. So we should have a pretty decent road system. The one nice thing is we're going to keep up with this PCI ratings, so that we're adding that to our city works so that we can project future stuff and try to build budgets with that and kind of maintenance schedules.
So you're actually paving roads that need to be paved at that right time?
Yeah.
Hey, that's a good idea. That's great.
Have you, not that, I don't think it totally matters, but have you ran this passed, or does Maury over at Bannock Transportation Planning Organization get a copy of this?
I can get a copy to him. I
I would-
don't know if Maury does. I haven't gave him one yet, so
Okay.
it would be a good thing for him to have also.
Yeah, if you want to give it to me, I'll take it to him at our next board meeting or
Okay.
whatever. But as I was just looking through that, I was considering some of the other plans we've been talking about with those guys, and I thought it might be just good for him to have
Yeah,
a copy of this.
exactly. And it kind of states, for our amount of roads, what the cycle should be, and like for chipping and stuff like that, kind of gives you some examples of where you kind of should be at. And it's around, we look at a 7-year rotation cycle on like chip sealing and stuff, and we need to be around like 23 miles. Right now we're, 32 miles. I was dyslexic on that. And right now we're at 34 and doing about 14 miles of reconstruction with asphalt. And so we've got a pretty good system going. I think our roads are in pretty good shape. We'll, maybe in another discussion in a meeting, we could discuss a little bit about next year, if things are still looking like they are. What they normally do is, it's kind of an 8-year cycle. So 7 years you do these chip sealings and pavings and stuff, and then the 8th year you skip 1 year and go more into shoulder work, drainage, gravel work, and that's when you can kind of catch up on that. So, I mean, if next year's stuff is looking like it's a lot of money, like you say, why buy when it's high? We could look at kind of a program next year of more on the gravel end of things and
Shoulder work, road work, that way. Yeah.
Yep, so.
When are you doing the Parks Road Buckskin interchange? Is this going to be this year, or is it going to be the following
No, so we did it for 24.
Okay.
And they sent a thing and said there was a couple changes that needed, and so we attached this to it and the changes in that intersection. And so they said the problem with that was it's gonna push that, so it's not till like 25.
Okay.
So it's a little ways out there.
Okay.
But we'll keep going with the help of our grant people and stuff and try to grab any grants we can.
The other one, just to put on your thing, Johnny Creek's always been one. There's rumors of more expansion up at the top of Johnny. I mean, there's land available that people own and farm ground that is going to go. And that road, I had to drive up there to the top of it the other day. And just, that's one of the roads too that we need to start thinking about, because I mean, I think there's 200 and something acres up there that could go into development at any time. And so, I mean, there's stuff like that.
Yeah.
That if stuff like that's gonna go, we need to start talking about that road's narrow, the shoulders, some of that stuff. We've had.
For like Gibson Jack Road and stuff.
Yeah, the one thing that I've noticed is, there's a lot of encroachment on a lot of our county roads. Like, we've had people that have, the Buckskin, going over Buckskin, there's a lady that's put her fence past the telephone poles.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff like that where we gotta go through and we gotta start, there you go. And this is, no, and I'm serious, we've got problems here.
Speed dial.
This is something that we need to talk.
Yeah.
As I drove up Gibson Jack, going up to that Wild Horse area, driving up there are people that have encroached. They have plants and pots and posts and stuff that are in the right of way in the burrow pit that create a safety hazard if anybody ever left the roadway surface. And we need to get back on that, and we need to have the civil deputies where, again, this needs to go back to what I was talking about of ordinance or roadways, easements, egress, whatever, and we need to go through and we need to start warning people, and then we need to start citing them.
Yeah, and the one idea we kind of had with that is thinking of picking a section or an area and then notifying them, giving them a certain amount
Yes.
of time, instead of it being like a
Yeah.
county-wide thing. Let's try to slowly work it out.
All of those
But
canyons.
that would be a good thing to talk to Emma.
Yep.
Put it out there that we're starting this. Beware, and everyone's gonna get hit. We can go sections, but everyone's gonna
Yeah.
get hit. And that's a good
There are so many,
public information.
that's just something I've started keeping an eye on. And especially, for some odd reason, people have done it on all the canyon roads. Pocatello, Pocatello Creek, Buckskin, Rapid Creek, Hoot Owl, all those.
Well, look at the junk. We got jail.
Yeah, and people literally, you have stuff that if in a bad weather environment, oh, this wood log posty art thing looks great until your car hits it on a winter day and it goes through your windshield.
We have a pig pen down in the south end that's actually got hogs in it, and it's halfway on the pavement.
Cite
And
'em.
it's like,
Cite 'em. This is where you just cite 'em.
that's where we got, yeah.
Just ticket them. Those are people you don't even send a warning. This is just, here's your ticket. Here's your ticket for a lack of intelligence. You're cited. There you go. That's, I mean, seriously, I'm
So
told.
there is a lot, yeah, there's a lot of work.
Just,
with that.
I know that our sheriff knows how to roast a full pig.
Yeah.
We can have a county party.
I like it.
So, yeah, I think a good thing to do is maybe talking with Brian and stuff and figure out a good process, whether it's like an electronic way or something that we can make that into a process that it's not me calling and saying.
No,
hey,
yeah,
get this.
and what I'm saying is we got to start getting on that, because the whole thing too is when you guys do go in for road work and construction, it just slows you down and it causes problems anyway.
Well, it's like I say, it's a maintenance, but it's a safety factor too.
I will tell you, in the city of Pocatello, there was a neighbor of my parents that was doing some construction work and literally left overnight a trailer like that far into the alley past the easement way, and the dude had a ticket the next day. They don't mess around, and everybody in those alleys, everybody down in here knows, if you're in the alleyway and you're parked or you're blocking or whatever, you're gonna, I mean, it's,
Well, and that's where
we gotta probably
like
get back
code
to that.
enforcement helps, but if we don't have, that's where I say, as long as like my road guys going around have a method, whether it even goes through City Works or something and goes to
Well,
him.
and
If
that's-
there's a method to that, then we could work on that. Because
We need
we've got
that's-
people driving
yeah.
around all the time.
And that's what we
so-
say, your guys notice it, it needs to be reported in, they need to cycle it through, they need to get then, we take a look at it, get a picture, send them a warning letter, whatever. If it's not corrected in so much, sheriff's deputies,
I love
you're out patrolling, stop by and issue some tickets, man.
Well, and that would work great with, like that with City Works, they have the mobile, and you can do a picture right with your mobile and add it
Yes.
right to that work order.
Yeah.
So we can have your department set up and just send them all work.
Yeah.
That over.
Brian's he's gonna love us, he's like, thanks, guys.
Bear leg's looking good.
No.
No, I think we have the process down now. We've had some.
Well, but it's just, there's safety hazards, it's just stuff.
Well, and it's always been kind of on our end, what is the process? Because our guys will go and try to communicate and say, hey, and go through all that. But then the next thing, we've got some that say, I don't care what you want. We had a guy just a little while ago with a fence do that exact thing
Well,
and go, I don't care.
Then you know what happens then? Is you pull up with your backhoe and you just take the fence out.
Well, in
And
our
you leave-
in our
you take
road
the pile and leave it on
policies,
the thing, and then you send them the bill for the work,
Yeah,
because that's what.
and we're slow, because we're government. So
Yeah, so
it
it's gonna
might
be
cost a lot.
really expensive. It's gonna be.
We'll talk about processes.
Okay.
But it's in your policy, so it's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that really kind of solidified it too in that policy. It states that it will be on their
It's on their dime.
for us to.
Everybody else professes safety, we can too.
Well, and it's just those things that is, I've been watching the last little bit, and just there's a lot of those things that people just seem to encroach and don't pay attention, and that's how accidents happen, man. You get somebody blocking a roadway, especially those canyon roads and stuff like that, where people are coming fast, they're not paying attention, you can't see around, and
Well, it's just like with them bushes that new mower does and stuff. It's just some of that stuff's just getting to where that mows them back good.
If you call that mowing.
no, it's some free work, or it's a freelance sculpture. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, the first pass of the year, it doesn't look the best because of the just ripping through it, but a lot of other counties have been using them, and once you get that initial, this is where it stops. It kind of, it almost starts looking like you're just kind of lands.
New growth.
Yeah, so,
So with this, are you happy with it?
yeah. I thought they did a good job. I was really happy that some of our, like our road, Rowdy in our roads, his eyeball had seen what their actual testing was proving, and he was right on a lot of the roads and that needed done, and like I say, I think we've got a pretty good maintenance schedule with our bridges. We had 2 that were in fair. We don't have any in poor condition. You look at some of the surrounding counties and there's a lot of poor and fair things, and so I think we're doing pretty good with our roads and our bridges.
So the monies we're getting from the state, what's your plans?
Just use it all. Yeah, that's some of my plans. It depends on what we have to do with like fuel and stuff like that. I'm trying to keep with Christie on fuel stuff, but some of the things I would really like to do is some of our guardrail that is way out of compliance, and
Looks good at going up Pidcock right now.
yeah, some of that kind of stuff that we need for these areas that are getting more and more. That's what I'm looking into right now, trying to get a cost per foot kind of thing and get some averages. That, and we haven't did a lot of crack sealing for years. So usually you'd want to crack seal before you chip seal. And some of them things, and it's really not us that are doing it. We hire that out, so it's not taking out of our time. But
Yeah. Okay.
that'd be a few. Look at maybe some of the things to make things better for where the population's going to, so.
Well, that'd be good to collaborate with your people and Rowdy and stuff and see, where those funds can be spent, where they're
There's
gonna be
a
the
few
best
roads
spent.
that are still gravel that are getting quite a few homes on them. That would be another place I'd like, because that would save us in the gravel maintenance end of things. And
Mag chloride and other stuff.
yeah, because how our roads are kind of going, we go by traffic count. They get maintained by how much usage they have. So when they get to a certain usage, we do the dust control. And like and like Brett had told you, it's dust control, but it's actually an amendment for the road that keeps it together. So it's good for that reason. So as you get that high traffic, especially in hilly areas or something, we utilize that because then it takes away a lot of your maintenance. But you can always tell that when you're starting to get to a chloride stage of a road, you're not far off of it's going to need paved because the usage. So that's kind of how we work through what needs paved. And there is a few miles of road that could use, if we had some funding, could be great to pave.
Okay.
So you want us to accept this plan?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve and accept the transportation plan as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sounds like that's it.
Did you hear from Todd?
I didn't.
I think because we got it.
Dan said that he thought it was just kind of planned in advance and that he didn't need to see it.
Okay.
I did speak with him yesterday, and he said that they did get the grant. They were able to modify the grant. The only issue that they had was the deconstruction amount of $73,000, how to change that to fit into the new plan.
Will we be getting that information?
I would assume so. I just talked to him in the parking lot as we were passing, so.
So what they need to do is that $73,000 just needs to be put into the additional cost of construction, so into square footage cost. Because I don't think as I look through that grant application of what they had in square footage cost, I don't think they're anywhere close. Like, I think they're gonna go from a 4,400 square foot building to about a 2,500 square foot building. Because it's just not, I mean, you're at $400 a foot right now, and they were estimating like 3 something. I think they were, might even been at under 2, or under 3 into the 2s, so
Yeah, it's 450.
just a little bit.
Well, with that